All persons having anything to do before the Honorable, the Justice E. Susan Gosh of the Superior Court, now sitting at Fall River within and for the Commonwealth, draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Court is in session. Be seated, please.
Return to 2013-983, Commonwealth versus Aaron Hernandez.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Have any of you seen or heard or read or overheard anything at all about this case or Mr. Hernandez since I last inquired? There are no affirmative responses. And have any of you discussed this case or Mr. Hernandez with anyone since I last asked? There are no affirmative responses. And have any of you had any difficulty following any of my instructions not to talk about, look at, or do any research of any kind about this case, Mr. Hernandez, or anything you think could in any way be related to the case? There are no affirmative responses. Let me go over the schedule a bit with you because it has changed due to snow and other factors. Because of scheduling issues, we are going to stop today at 11. There will be no session tomorrow, Thursday, and on Friday we're going to go a full day. Next week, Monday is a public holiday, so the court is not open on Monday. There'll be no session on Monday, and it is my intent to go full days to try to make up for some of this snow time and scheduling time, and to go full days on both Wednesday and Friday. Obviously, all of these plans are weather dependent. With that, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we would call Trooper Michael Lombard.
Right this way, sir. Please follow me. Please face the clerk and raise your right
Do
hand.
you solemnly swear that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, sir.
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
State your full name.
Michael Lombard.
Can you spell your last name?
Lombard.
And where do you work?
Massachusetts State Police, Crime Scene Service Section.
How long have you been with the state police?
26 years, 8 months.
Okay, and you've indicated you're with the crime scene section unit.
Yes, I am.
And how long have you been with that unit?
22 years.
And taking you back to June of 2013, you were assigned to the crime scene unit in what location?
The Lakeville Lab.
Do you recall on June 17th of 2013 whether you were working on that date?
I was working that day.
Okay. What shift did you work?
I work a day shift.
And what time did that shift end?
That's 7 to 3:30.
Sometime after 3:30, did you go to your home?
Yes, I did.
And in the evening hours of that day, were you doing something?
Yes, I was.
And what was that?
I was at my son's baseball game.
Okay. And where was that located?
Bridgewater, Mass.
And what time did that game start, if you recall?
It was approximately 5:30 p.m.
And do you recall when arriving for your son's game what the weather was like?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what was that?
It was cloudy. It looked like there was going to be a rainstorm.
Okay. Did the game start?
Yes, it did.
And how long was the game played?
I want to say about 45 minutes.
Okay. During that time, did you receive a phone call?
Yes, I did.
And who called you?
Sergeant Stephen Bennett.
And who is Sergeant Stephen Bennett?
He is my supervisor, and he was the on-call officer for that day.
Okay. Did you have a conversation with him?
Yes, I did.
And at that time, did you go anywhere?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And how long after that phone call did you remain at the game?
I want to say about half hour, 20 minutes, half hour.
And at that time, what was happening with the weather?
It was getting really dark, and it started to rain. So after I had conversation with Sergeant Bennett, I had told him that I couldn't.
Well, you haven't asked what
Okay.
you said.
As a result of it starting to rain, did you call Sergeant Bennett?
Yes, I did.
And did you have a conversation?
Yes, I did.
And as a result of that conversation, did you then leave the game and go somewhere?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go?
I went to North Attleboro.
Okay. And just from Bridgewater to North Attleboro, how long did that take you, if you recall?
It's approximately half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay. Do you know what time you arrived in North Attleboro?
Approximately 7:30 p.m.
And at that time, can you just tell us what was the weather any different than what you had seen in Bridgewater?
It had rained most of the time, and by the time I got to that scene, it had stopped raining.
Okay. And now, when you arrived, just tell us what did you, well, specifically where did you go when you say that scene? Where is that?
344 John Dirch Boulevard.
Okay. And when you arrived at that location, just tell us, just give us a general description of that area.
It's like an open gravel pit area.
And when you arrived there, did you park your car?
Yes, I did.
And did you then go somewhere at that gravel pit?
Yes, I met with Sergeant Bennett, my supervisor.
Okay. Now, as a member of the crime scene services section, do you have particular equipment that you use?
Yes.
And what kind of equipment is that?
We have cameras and we have video cameras.
Okay. Did you have that equipment with you on that date when you went to?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Tell us what you did shortly after arriving.
I had conversation with Sergeant Bennett. He advised me.
Well, it's not what he told you, just what you did. So if you
What I
spoke to
did.
someone, you can indicate you spoke to someone, but you're not being asked
Okay.
what you said or what he said.
So did you have a conversation with Sergeant Bennett?
Yes, I did.
And as a result of that, did you then do something?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
I videotaped the scene.
Okay. And do you recall approximately what time you began videotaping the scene?
It was approximately 7:40, 7:45.
Okay. And at that time, when you say the scene, what areas of the scene did you videotape?
From the entrance of 344 John Dirch into the gravel pit area and then the surrounding that area.
Okay. And you were making observations while you were videoing?
Yes.
I can approach, Your Honor.
May.
So I'm just going to show you this disc and ask you if you recognize it.
Well, yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that to be?
It's a DVD of the video I took.
Okay, and how do you know it's a DVD of the video you took?
I'd seen it and I initialed it.
And does that fairly accurately portray the video of the scene that you described observing on June 17, 2013?
Yes, it does.
This is an exhibit.
No objection.
Maybe Marcus next.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could play this at this time. Sir, we're going to be playing the video, and I'm going to just ask you to look at the monitor alongside your seat. Yes.
It's going to be 68. That used to be 68, not 68.
Okay.
When you get a chance. Oh, yes, thank you.
Your Honor, just for the purpose of the record, I've made that change.
monitor doesn't seem to be on.
Okay, sir, can you see that okay?
Yes, I can.
And does that show the area that you arrived at on June 17, 2013?
Yes, it is.
Does that reflect the accurate time when you began your video, approximately 7:53 p.m.?
Yes, it is.
Now, what is this area here?
That's from the entrance in towards the pit.
Okay. And approximately how far, ultimately, did you go down to to the location of a body?
Yes, I did.
And approximately how far was that from this area here?
I would say it was a couple hundred yards.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, thanks. Now, sir, when you first arrived, did you see this white tent?
Yes, I did.
And did you do something at the white tent?
I gave them my name, they signed in.
Okay. This area that's showing on the video?
That's the gravel pit area.
And just describe that area in general.
There's just a lot of hills of dirt and asphalt and trees and mounds of grass. And then there's some tops, red tops, and one of those pop-up tents.
And in terms of any buildings or homes in that area, did you observe any?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Thanks. What was the condition of the ground when you were recording this?
It was real hard packed with puddles, various puddles around.
Now, as you approached the red tarp shown, did you observe any disturbance to the surface area?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Now, right here, just describe what's showing in the video.
It's the red tents and the tops, and then it goes back into like the grassy, like a great big open field.
Now, sir, in the back left corner, you're familiar with a roadway that ran along the back of that property?
Yes.
And during the course of you filming the video, did you occasionally see a passing car?
Yes, I did.
What is shown here in the video, sir?
The tops, the red tops in the tent.
Now, in the back there and about the middle, what does that show?
Behind the two red tops.
Yes, in the very far part, in approximately the middle, can you see a tree line there or power line?
Yes. And then a mound of dirt and gravel in between that.
And when I asked you about whether you could see vehicles, what part of cars could you see when they went by?
You could see like just about the roof, like just the roof line of the vehicles go by.
Okay. And now, on the the bottom left-hand corner of this, just describe what that is?
The red top.
Yes, sir. And behind it, with the canopy, what does that depict?
That's a red top too, also.
And then, how many other tarps do you see in this?
There's two others to the right of that.
Right. And where the canopy one is, was that visible from that area of the, was there anything that obstructed your view from over that area to that roadway?
Yes, the mound of dirt and grass in between.
Now, just watching that screen, did you see a vehicle go by?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay. Okay, what's shown here?
It's a tarp with a red pop-up tent.
Is that closer view?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now, if we could just hold that for a second. And, sir, what's depicted now in the video?
There's the body lying on the ground.
Okay. What happened to the tarp and the canopy?
They were removed.
Okay. Now, sir, those, what's depicted right there?
The two pieces of top, red top.
And just their location relative to the individual's body?
It's to the feet side.
Yes, just in orientation with regards to the body.
It's to the right down a little bit of it,
Okay.
an incline.
Okay, go ahead. And just in between that area and the body, did you notice any disturbance of the surface area?
Yeah, you could, yes.
Okay, and what did you observe?
Looks like a tire mark or something in the gravel, in between the body and the feet.
Okay, what view is this here?
That's looking below the feet and below the red tops, looking up towards the body.
Okay. Now, what time is it approximately when you're filming here?
It's 8:30 p.m.
And now, what is that showing, those white items?
Those are just like tents that are blocking the view from anyone outside.
Okay. And this view here, what does that show?
It's from above the body looking down towards the other two red tops.
And sir, as you were surveying this area with the video camera, did you ever see any either broken glass or broken piece of plastic, parts of a mirror?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What's depicted now in the video?
That's the body.
Okay, sir, what is depicted here?
That's the, there's a tire impression to the right of that dry square spot. We removed that tarp that was covering that.
Okay. And what are you doing here with your camera?
Just showing the tire impression.
Okay. And in which direction was that tire impression going in relation to the body?
It was, if, the way I was panning it was from out towards the body.
Approximately what time is this?
8:40 p.m.
Has the lighting conditions changed in any way?
Yeah, it's starting to get dark.
Okay. Now, this here, is that same area or different area?
That's the same area.
And is there something that's been now placed in that area?
There's a #1 placard.
Okay, and just describe, what is a placard?
It's just to identify any evidence that we're going to document.
Okay, is that something that you're familiar with in terms of your work at crime scene?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and how frequently do you use placards?
We use them all the time.
Okay. So placard #1 indicates what?
The tire impression.
Okay, could you hold? Now, what time is it here?
It's 9:21 p.m.
Okay, and just tell us, where are you filming this area?
Towards there's two placards. Those were the red tarps that were covering below the body, below the feet area. And we had marked those placard 2 and 3.
Okay, and on this screen, where is 2?
2 is to the far right.
And where's 3?
3 is to the left.
Okay. Now, with regard to the surface area around the body, how would you describe that?
Around the body was really hard. It was almost concrete.
Okay, and when you got down to this area below the feet where placards 2 and 3 are, just describe that.
There was some like soft, silty sand, and it was hard packed around it in areas too.
Okay, and now on this, is this a closer view of what we had just seen?
Yes, it is.
And just describe again, where's placard 2?
2 is to the right, 3 is to the left.
Okay. And what is this?
That's that's placard #2, which is a footwear impression.
Okay. And when you say it's a footwear impression, how many footwear impressions did you see at placard 2?
Just one.
Okay. Is that fairly shown on this screen?
Yes.
What is that?
That's again placard 2 from a different angle, looking more straight, just right above it.
Okay. And the
With a different
orientation...
bit of light.
I'm sorry.
With some, just putting more light onto it.
In the orientation of that, what you indicated, footwear impression was what? in relation to the body or toward Landry Avenue?
It was probably pointing towards Landry Ave, so it would be perpendicular to the feet of the body.
Okay, and what about in regards to the tire track impression that you observed?
It was like parallel to that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and what's shown here, sir?
That's Placard 3, which is another footwear impression. You can see it just to the left of the yellow placard.
Okay. Is that a closer up?
Yes, it is a different angle.
And are you aware of the orientation of that in relation to the body?
Yeah, it was below the feet. Close up.
What time is showing here?
9:25 p.m.
Okay. Now, at this time, a certain device placed in the video?
There's a scale ruler.
Okay, and what is the purpose of that?
It's so if you do, when you photograph that, you can bring it to a 1-to-1 for comparison purposes.
Is that the end of the video, sir?
Yes, it is.
Thanks. I'm just going to show you a series of photographs, ask you if you recognize them.
Yes, it is.
Okay. How do you recognize those?
Those are from the placards, and those are the impressions, the tire impressions and the two footwear impressions that were videotaped and photographed.
Now, is it fair to say some of these are photographs and some are known as stills taken from the video?
Yes.
Yeah, just one moment.
Me.
I'm just going to show you this photograph. Is that taken from the video or is it just a photograph?
This is a photograph.
Okay. Are you familiar with that photograph, with the scene depicted in it?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately depict what you observed at the scene on June 17, 2013?
Yes, it does.
As well as these other photographs?
Yes.
Right off of these next exhibit.
Your Honor, I guess I object without knowing whether Trooper Lombard took these photographs or whether he knows who did take the photographs. I'd like some more of a foundation established, please.
Do you know who took the photographs?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
Trooper Joseph Sylvia.
Okay, were you present when the photographs were being taken?
Yes, I was.
Did you observe the scenes?
Yes.
Do they accurately reflect what was being photographed?
Yes, they are.
No, please show them.
No objection.
You may match the next exhibit.
Your Honor, if I could have a chance. I'm placing the first photograph on the screen. It's now marked 69A. Can you see that all right?
Yes.
And what does that show, sir?
That's Placard 1, which is the tire impression.
I'm sorry, sir. If you would just repeat that.
It's Placard number 1, which is the tire impression to the right of the placard.
Now putting on 69B. Recognize that.
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
That is the tire impression, Placard 1 with a ruler and
Placing 69C. Recognize that.
yes.
What is that?
That is a picture of Placard 2 to the right and 3 to the left.
D.
We got Placard 2 and 3, so a closer view.
E. What is that?
It's Placard 2, the footwear impression.
F.
Again, that's the footwear impression, Placard 2 with the ruler in it.
G. Recognize that?
That's Placard 2, the footwear impression with the scale, the ruler.
Okay, getting orientation of that footprint as you observed it.
Is heading towards, parallel to the tire impressions, heading towards Landry Ave.
H.
That's again Placard 2, that footwear impression, different light.
69I, is that?
Placard 3, the other footwear impression.
69K.
And a close-up of Placard 3, that footwear impression with the scale in it.
Sir, with regard to the investigation of this matter, were you involved in any other matters?
Yes, I was.
Just explain what are the matters you were involved in.
I went and observed major case prints taken.
Okay. Major case prints, just describe what that is.
Those are the full palm prints, fingerprints, and of the whole, all fingers.
Okay. And whose major case prints were you involved with or present when they were taken?
Aaron Hernandez.
Okay. And Aaron Hernandez, do you see him in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Could you just point him out and describe what he's wearing?
He's wearing a gray suit with a purple tie in the back there.
Your Honor, if the record can reflect the witness identifying the defendant. Now, were you present with somebody else when his major case prints were taken?
Yes, I was.
And who was that?
Trooper Joseph Sylvia.
Okay. Did you have another occasion to be present and conduct some video and take photographs on another occasion involving an individual by the name of Ernest Wallace?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and just describe what you did.
We went to the...
Well, let me just ask you, did you go and meet with him?
yes.
Okay, and when you met with him, you brought your equipment?
Yes.
And what did you do? What were you filming or photographing?
They were measuring his size of his foot.
Okay. When you say they, was somebody else with you?
Yes.
Who was that?
Trooper Mark Burke from Bristol State Police Detectives and Trooper Bill Watson from Crime Scene Services Section.
Okay. I could have one moment, Your Honor.
Me.
Thanks, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You told us on direct examination that you arrived at the scene at about 7:30 p.m. on June 17, 2013?
Yes.
Okay. And you told us that when you got there, it wasn't raining, right?
Yeah, it was the end of the range, so
Okay.
yes.
And you made the videotape that was shown a few minutes ago, right?
Yes, I did.
Now, were you told what to videotape, Trooper Lombard?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And who was giving you those instructions?
My supervisor.
That was Sergeant Bennett?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So you weren't just walking around with a video camera filming whatever you felt like filming, right?
No.
You were filming what Sergeant Bennett told you to film, right?
Correct.
And that's all that you filmed, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you told us on direct examination that as you were filming, you could see cars going by on Landry Avenue, right?
Correct.
Did Sergeant Bennett ever direct you to take any video from Landry Avenue that night?
I know he did not.
Now, would you agree with me that most of the area there was uncovered by any tarp or canopy?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And did you attempt to videotape any shoe prints other than the two shoe prints that you talked about a few minutes ago, the ones that were at placards 2 and 3?
No, I did not.
Sergeant Bennett didn't ask you to try to videotape, excuse me, any other shoe prints in the area?
No.
Now, am I correct that as we were watching, excuse me, all watching the videotape together, that it jumped in time from 8:03, and then all of a sudden it was, excuse me for a minute, it was 8:29. You remember that?
Yes.
Now, so during that 26-minute period from 8:03 to 8:29, were you videotaping during that period?
I know I was not.
And after 8:29, am I correct that there were some more jumps
Yeah.
a few minutes at a time?
That's correct.
And so during those gaps, you were not videotaping?
I was not.
Okay. So you would stop for a while, and then Sergeant Bennett would say, please go videotape this, or please go videotape that, and you would turn on the machine and start videotaping again. Is that how it worked?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. Now, at 8:29, you showed us, your video shows us that the tarp and the canopy that was over the decedent's body had been removed, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So did that happen sometime between 8:03 and 8:29, that the canopy and the tarp were removed?
Yes.
Okay. And for that to occur, am I correct that a number of officers had to walk down there, remove the rocks from the tarps, and physically remove the tarp and take down the canopy, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you videotape any of that?
I did not.
And that's because Sergeant Bennett didn't ask you to, right?
Yes, that wasn't part of my my job to do.
He didn't tell you to do it, so
No,
you didn't do
he
it,
didn't.
right?
Correct.
Okay. But whether you were videotaping or not, would you agree with me that there were a number of officers standing around the body, removing the rocks and removing the tarp and removing the canopy, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you film any of their shoe prints?
I did the two that we had marked.
The two that we
Videotape them,
marked,
yes.
right? That's Placards 2 and Placards 3.
Correct.
But you didn't videotape any other shoe prints that night, right?
There may have been some in the tire impression. Along the back of it, there was some impressions, but we didn't single in on those.
You weren't told to zoom in on those, right?
No, that's correct.
And you weren't told to film or zoom in on any other shoe prints that may have been in that area, correct?
Those are the ones that we had found. Those are the ones that we observed.
Well, are you telling this jury there were no other shoe prints in that area that night, Trooper Lombard?
No, there were the other ones.
But you didn't film any of those, right?
Correct.
And finally, Trooper Lombard, you showed us some close-up video and then some photographs of the shoe print at placard number 2, right?
Yes.
And am I correct that you told us that that particular shoe print was in an area of soft sand?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
In terms of when you arrived, do you know what role, if any, Sergeant Bennett had with regards to the placement of those tarps?
Objection.
If you saw not what you were told by anyone,
Right.
you may.
I was
Not what you were told. If you were there when the tops were being placed,
I was not.
then the objection is sustained.
So my question is this: when you arrived, were the tarps already set up or not set up or in the process of being set up?
It was all set up when I got there.
Okay. And did you see Sergeant Bennett in any way involved with the setting up of tarps?
No, he was
He's
not.
just indicated the tops were set up when he arrived, so I'm
Okay.
going to sustain you.
Did you see Sergeant Bennett around the tarps at that time,
At what time?
when you arrived?
No, he wasn't.
Now, you began, Mr. Sultan asked you about when you had begun filming, and then there were some stops and then restarts, is that right?
Yes.
Was there something going on in between?
Yes, we were moving the tops and the tent
Okay. What was the purpose of removing the tarps in the tent?
to photograph that evidence that was covered up.
And after the tarp, do you recall whether, at some point, the tarp coming off the body?
Yes.
Did you see any action taken by others with regard to the body before you resumed filming?
No.
Okay. Now, when Mr. Sultan asked you about the other footwear impressions. Did you see any other footwear impressions?
There were some, yes,
And where did you see them?
in that tire impression area of the tire impression.
Okay, and was that area covered with a tarp?
Yes, it was.
And just tell us about the impression. Where were those impressions in relation to the tire tracks?
The impression that we took and to use for comparison purposes was towards the front of that tarp. The impressions were towards the rear, the edge of it, so back towards the body. They were in that area there.
Okay, now, were they marked?
We did not mark them, no.
Okay, but were they under the tarp that covered where placard 1 was?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And with that area, was those areas photographed?
They were, yes.
Okay. And could you tell, with regard to these footwear impressions, where were they in relation to the tire tracks? Were they next to them? Were they on them?
Some were right next to it, and some were almost on them, too, yeah.
Okay. And so could you tell when you, whether they were on them, whether there was some disruption based on the footwear impressions of the tire impressions or vice versa?
Yes, you could.
Okay, and which was it?
You could tell that the tire impression was there first, and then the footwear had trampled over that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You, Mr. Penn.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, the next witness would call Officer Edward Zimmer, please.
Right this way, sir. Please follow me. Raise your right hand.
Solemnly swear that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, sir.
Morning, Your Honor.
Sir, state your full name,
Edward Zimmer,
and would you spell your last name?
Z-I-M-M-E-R.
And do you work, sir?
Yes, I do.
Where do you work?
The North Attleboro Police Department,
How long have you worked there?
approximately 9 years.
And how are you currently assigned?
The Patrol Division,
How long have you been in the patrol division?
about 9.5 years.
Now, directing your attention back to June 17, 2013, were you working on that date?
Yes,
Were you assigned to the patrol division?
yes.
And just tell us, what were your duties on that day?
I was assigned as a impact car to the east side of town, which covers east of Route 1,
Okay. And what was your shift?
the 4 p.m. to midnight shift,
And how were you traveling that day?
in a marked police cruiser,
And what about your clothing? What type of clothing?
full police uniform.
Now, sometime at about 5:35, did you receive a radio dispatch?
Yes,
And as a result of that, did you go somewhere?
yes.
Where did you go?
The area Corliss Landing in the industrial park.
Was that in your area or your sector?
Yes.
And after receiving this radio dispatch, just tell us about how you proceeded to that location.
I activated my light and siren. I was on Route 1, which was heavily traveled at that time, and proceeded with caution to the area.
Okay. And how long did it take you to arrive at that scene?
Approximately 4 to 5 minutes.
And just tell us what you did once you arrived at the scene.
Yes, on my arrival, I proceeded to the crime scene. At that time I was met by Officer McEwen, who arrived previously to me. He stated that,
Okay. Sustained. Yeah, nothing about your conversation, but when you say you arrived in your cruiser?
yes.
And did you park somewhere?
Yes.
Where did you park?
At the parking lot of the businesses prior to the entrance of the crime scene.
Okay. And after you parked, what did you do?
Proceeded to the crime scene.
Okay, when you say proceeded to the crime scene, how far after parking your car did you actually move toward a particular location?
Approximately 50 feet?
Okay. Now, after about 50 feet, did you meet somebody?
Yes.
And who did you meet?
Officer Kevin McEwen?
Could you see anything after moving that 50 feet from after parking your car?
Yes.
What could you see?
I could see a body lying approximately 100 yards away.
Okay. Now, after meeting Officer McEwen, just yes or no, did you have a conversation?
Yes.
And as a result of that conversation, did you do something?
Yes.
What did you do?
Set up a perimeter of the crime scene.
Okay, when you say set up a perimeter, what do you mean?
A stationary point where no one can enter or exit without checking in with me.
Okay. How many perimeters were set up?
2.
Excuse me. When you say 2, just describe.
Yes. After speaking with Officer McEwen, I set up an inner perimeter. He then proceeded back out closer to the main entranceway of Corvus Landing and set up an exterior perimeter.
Okay. And so when you say an inner perimeter, just describe what you did at your location.
Yes. I secured some police caution tape, set up a barrier, also began taking log entries of who was entering and exiting the crime scene.
Okay. And how long did you remain there?
Approximately 5 hours.
Okay. And just describe, with regard to your duties at that time, logging in, describe what you were doing.
Yes. Whoever was entering the crime scene would check in with me. I'd take their name and the time that they entered the crime scene.
Okay. And at the time that you arrived, could you see whether anyone else had arrived before you?
Yes.
And who else had arrived?
Captain Dorenzo was first on scene. I then observed Officer McEwen and Firefighter Captain White.
Okay. Did you also, at any point, did you ever see an Officer Grimm?
Yes.
And was he there before or after you?
We arrived together where it was his sector. He proceeded to closer to the inner crime scene as I set up the perimeter.
Okay. Now, after you set up that perimeter, who else did you then check in?
Yes. Next to arrive was Detective Arrighi, Daniel Arrighi, at 5:49.
Okay. And after that, do you recall whether anyone from the fire department arrived?
Firefighter Josh Langel and Lieutenant DeMarco from the North Ave Police Department.
And each one of these individuals, as they arrived, did you have some contact with them?
Yes.
What information did you gather?
Their name and noted the time of their arrival.
Okay. Now, after Langel and DeMarco, who arrived after that?
Yes. They arrived at 5:50. The next on scene was the Chief of Police, John Riley, at 6 o'clock.
Okay. And after that?
Detective Elliott at 6:04.
Okay. After that?
Trooper Eric Benson at 6:19.
Okay. After that?
The DA representative, Mr. Bomberg, at 6:24.
Okay. Did you see him present in the court?
Yes.
Okay. And after that?
Detective Sergeant Sissio.
Okay. Approximately what time did he arrive?
That was 6:32.
Okay. After that?
After Sergeant Sissio, there was an additional Trooper Bennett at approximately 6:52.
Okay. And prior to that, do you know a Detective Paul Baker?
Yes, he arrived approximately 6:30.
Okay. Now, do you recall what time, so each one of those people you have mentioned, was there anything different about when they came through in terms of gathering their information than you've already described?
No.
Okay. And at approximately 6:50, so just before the last individual, the individual you referred to as Sergeant Bennett, did you notice anything with the weather at that time?
Yes.
And what was that?
There was an impending thunderstorm coming in.
Okay. And do you recall, did ultimately that arrive?
Yes.
And what happened when it arrived?
Prior to its arrival, equipment was brought in to try to preserve the crime scene.
Okay. And when you say equipment was brought in, who was bringing the equipment in?
I don't recall exactly who brought it in. I believe it was the fire department brought it to the scene, and then members who are already on scene brought it to the crime scene.
Okay. Now, when you say brought it, members who are already on scene, the individuals that we've been talking about, anybody in addition to them or limited to that group?
I would say limited to that group.
Okay. And what were they doing with this equipment as it arrived at the scene?
They secured it basically at my location from one truck and then transferred it to the crime scene.
Okay. And how were they transporting it?
I believe they used a police pickup truck.
Okay. And at some point in time, did you observe certain things being erected or set up further down?
Yes.
And what was that?
Some three-quarter tent structures, similar to like a family function, as well as some tarps.
Okay. Now, during, what time was, ultimately did the rain arrive?
Yes.
And what time did it arrive, approximately?
Approximately 6 o'clock. About 6:30, I'd say.
Okay. And did it, how long did it rain?
Approximately an hour.
Okay. And after that, you remained on the scene?
Yes.
And how long, until what time did you remain on the scene?
10 o'clock p.m.
And during the time now, up until the time that it rained, was there anybody else who had entered the scene that you haven't already told us about?
Multiple state police detectives.
Okay, but did they arrive before or after the rain? Or
I'm
while
sorry. Some during, some after.
Okay. But prior to the rain, is there anybody else that, from that initial list that you've described from Sergeant Dorenzo being the first to Sergeant Bennett, anybody else?
Sergeant Baker.
Okay. Now, after the rain ended, did you see any change with regard to the tarps or the tents?
I'm sorry?
Sure. What, if any, change did you note with regard to the tarps or the tents after it stopped raining?
I was at a distance. Eventually, they were secured. The tenting, from what I recall, was laid on its side due to media.
Okay. And at any point after the rain or while the rain was going on, did you see any additional people from crime scene services arrive?
Yes.
Okay. In your first response, when you indicated that you had met Officer McKeon, how close were you from the body, the closest that you came to that body?
At that time, approximately 100 yards.
Okay. Now, did that change at any time that during the 5 hours you were at the scene?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, did you go closer to the body?
Yes.
When was that?
Later on in the evening, once the nightfall fell, myself and Officer Grimm assisted the State Police Crime Lab and photographers with setting up generators and lighting.
Okay. And what did you bring to the scene?
We brought 2 or 3 generators with lighting attached, and then we also assisted with some flashlight as well.
Okay. And was this before or after or during the rain?
This was after.
Okay. And what time did you ultimately leave the scene?
10 o'clock, approximately 10 o'clock.
May I approach? So I'm just going to show you 3 photographs. Ask if you recognize them.
Yes.
And that's the first one,
Yes.
second one,
Yes.
and the third one.
Yes.
Okay, what do you recognize? Let me just ask you this. Did these photographs fairly and accurately reflect the scenes depicted in the photographs?
Yes, correct.
Your Honor, I'd offer these.
Okay.
Name Mark's next exhibits.
Use the overhead, Your Honor.
Me.
Placing number 70 on the overhead, you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
What is that?
Those are the patrol boots I was wearing that evening?
They portray the sole pattern of the boots that you owned on that date?
Yes.
You were wearing.
Yes.
71, placing on the overhead. Recognize that scene?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
That'd be a photograph taken from the inner portion of the crime scene to my location.
Okay, when you say to your location, is that visible in this?
Yes.
Just describe where you are.
I'm wearing the fluorescent yellow-green raincoat at the crime scene tape.
Was that your position during the course of the evening?
Yes.
And now 72 is on the overhead. Recognize the scene there.
Yes.
What is that?
That is a tarp that was covering some tire tracks on the scene.
And directing your attention to further in the background, can you see your location here?
Yes.
And where are you?
I'm under the quarter tent located at the crime scene tape.
And do you recall at what time that was set up?
I do not recall.
Do you know whether it's prior to the rain?
It was during the rain.
Okay. I have one more, Your Honor.
Me.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
You arrived that evening about 5:40, is that right?
Yes, 5. Yes.
Okay. And you established what you described as an inner perimeter.
Yes.
And there was a little white tent set up for you for that purpose, right?
Yes, eventually.
So you sat there. Do you have a chair? Were you sitting or standing?
Standing.
Okay. So you stood under that little white tent, and as people came in or out, you carefully recorded the name of the person, their affiliation, and the time they came in or out, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you made entries in a log, right?
Yes.
And that log was, at some point, shortly thereafter, you reduced that log to writing, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you've reviewed that log before coming in here today to testify, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that log accurate?
Yes, there is one typo.
So there's a mistake on the log, correct?
Yes, there's one
Okay.
typo.
And am I correct that the mistake is you told us a few minutes ago that, is it Trooper Baker or Sergeant Baker?
I believe it's Sergeant.
Okay. You told us a few minutes ago that Sergeant Baker arrived around 6:30 that evening, but that's not what your log says, right?
Correct.
Okay. So on that particular entry, there's a mistake in your log, right?
Yes.
Let me just ask you to keep your voice up.
Yes, Your Honor. Excuse me.
And by the way, this log of yours, it was reviewed by somebody, right?
Yes.
And the person it was reviewed by was someone named Jason Roy.
I don't recall who reviewed it.
Do you know who Jason Roy is?
Yes.
Who's Jason Roy?
He's a sergeant at the North Attleboro Police Department. Thank you.
Sir, I'm showing you a document. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What do you recognize that two-page document to be?
A copy of the narrative I created?
That's a copy of your log, right?
Yes.
I'd offer it, Your Honor, as an next
No
exhibit.
objection, Your Honor.
Marked as next exhibit.
Exhibit 73.
Now, on your log, which is now Exhibit 73, you also described certain evidence that was removed from the scene, right?
Yes.
And did you describe only some of the evidence that was removed from the scene, or did you describe all of the evidence that was removed from the scene in your log?
I described 2 pieces of evidence.
And what about any other pieces of evidence removed from the scene? Did you include those in your log?
No.
Why not?
I recorded what was reported to me.
So is it your testimony that if other pieces of evidence were removed from the scene, nobody told you about it?
I recorded evidence that was secured prior to the storm to preserve it.
Okay, so you recorded in your log that some shell casings were removed from the scene, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you reported in your log that a towel was removed from the scene, right?
Yes.
Did you also report in your log that a baseball hat was removed from the scene?
No.
Did you report in your log that a blunt or a marijuana cigarette was removed from the scene?
No.
Was Trooper Lombard there at some point that night?
Yes.
Did you notice what kind of shoes Trooper Lombard was wearing?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Do you know when Trooper Lombard arrived, what the condition of the rain was? In terms of the storm, had it come, gone, or was it still going on?
My memory is exhausted as to his exact time of arrival.
Okay, is there something that would assist your memory?
Yes.
Would exhibit number 73?
Yes.
Just placing 73 on the screen. You recognize that, sir, as your log?
Yes.
Did you record the arrival time, Detective Michael Lombard, MSP?
Yes.
And does that refresh your memory as to the time that he arrived?
Yes.
What time did he arrive?
7:43?
And earlier, Mr. Sultan asked you about, did you make a mistake on your log?
Yes, and transcribing it from my notes to the computer.
Okay, and what was that mistake, sir? Just if you could explain.
If you note the line, Detective Sergeant Baker, MSP, entered the scene, it's typed as 2029. That's supposed to be a 18 instead of a 20,
Okay.
which is 6 o'clock.
Okay, did you then indicate what time he cleared the scene?
Yes.
And just so am I pointing at the right?
It's the next line.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay. And does that indicate that entered scene, the time that you mistyped?
Yes.
What time did you put?
I put 2029.
And do you know if when Trooper Lombard arrived, the time that you just noted, whether the tarps were already laid out?
Yes.
And with regard to the items that were secured, you indicated there were 2 pieces of evidence that were secured in your presence?
Yes.
And what items were those?
It was some shell casings by Detective Riggi and a towel by Detective Elliott.
Okay. And was that noted in Exhibit 73, your log?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'd call Joshua Langel, please.
Right this way, sir. Please follow me. Please face the clerk and raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Have a seat, sir.
May I, Your Honor?
You may.
Sir, state your name, please.
Joshua Stephen Langel,
Could you spell your last name?
Langille,
And where are you from?
North Attleboro.
And do you work, sir?
Yes,
What type of work do you do?
I am a firefighter paramedic for the North Attleboro Fire Department.
How long have you worked as a firefighter paramedic for North Attleboro?
Since 2012,
Prior to that, where did you work?
for the West Bridgewater Fire Department.
How long were you there?
A little over 4 years.
Now, directing your attention to June 17, 2013, did you work on that day?
Yes, sir.
What shift were you working?
24-hour shift.
And so when did your shift begin?
Began at 8 a.m., and it was over the following morning at 8 a.m.
Okay, do you remember what day it began?
Monday morning.
And sometime on Monday afternoon, at approximately 5:35, do you recall where you were?
Yes, sir.
Where were you?
Sturdy Memorial Hospital in Attleboro.
And do you know what you were doing at the hospital?
We were documenting a report for a previous patient we had transported there.
Okay. At that time, did you receive a radio transmission?
Yes, sir.
And as a result of that, did you do something?
Yes.
What did you do?
We responded to John Deach Boulevard, the area of the Corliss Landing, for a report of person down.
And do you know how long it took you from where you were at Sturdy Memorial upon receiving that information to get to where you were going?
Roughly 10 minutes.
So approximately what time would you say you arrived?
1740 or 1750.
Okay, and that's military time. What is
Correct.
civilian
The,
time?
550.
Okay. Now, upon arrival, did you meet with anybody?
Yes, sir.
Who did you meet with?
We were met by Captain White, who was on scene prior to us, along with Engine Company 1.
Okay. And just describe that area when you arrived. Where did you go?
We pulled into the area of the Corliss Landing. There was a long dirt driveway, a roadway that kind of went into a gravel pit area. We were met at the entrance to that area.
Okay. And after meeting at that area, at some point, did you go further down down a road?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And approximately how far down did you go?
50 to 100 yards.
Okay. And what did you do when you went that distance?
At that time, the patient was pronounced deceased on arrival by Captain White, so I was there to document the findings.
Okay. When you say you were there to document the findings, were you taking some form of notes or report?
Yes, I was completing a patient care report.
And during that time, how close did you get to the body of this individual?
Maybe 5 to 8 feet away.
Okay. And when you were in that location, was anybody else with you?
Captain White and Officer Grimm.
And from that position, just if you would orient us as to your position with regard to the body, where were you located?
At the head.
Okay. And how long did you remain at that head area?
Rough 15, 20 minutes maybe.
I got one moment, Your Honor. If I could approach you, Your Honor. Sir, I'm just going to show you this photograph and ask you if you recognize what's depicted.
Yes, those are
Okay, just keep your voice up if you would. What's depicted in the scene?
the boots I was wearing.
And they fairly accurately portray the sole pattern of the shoes that you had on the day you went to the scene.
Yes.
I'd offer this as the next exhibit.
No objection.
Next exhibit.
If I could publish this, Your Honor. So I'm placing now mark 74 on the overhead. So is the sole of the boot you were wearing that day.
Yes.
And I'm also just going to show you what's been marked exhibit number 12. Do you recognize this scene, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
The scene of the incident would be the coiled landing.
Okay. Do you recognize people that you see in this?
Yes, sir.
photograph?
Yes.
Who do you recognize?
Myself, Captain White, and Officer Grimm.
Okay, and where are you in this photo?
I'm in the center of this,
And what are you doing at this time?
completing the patient care report.
Does this reflect the distance that you were as you did that from the bottom?
I may have been a little closer.
Okay. And did you ever go below the feet of this individual?
No, sir.
And in terms of the scene, did you see anybody disturb while you were present and watching? Did you see anybody disturb anything about this scene?
No.
How long did you remain there?
15 minutes.
And what did you do after that?
We were escorted off the scene. I was with Captain White and Officer Grimm. Once off the scene, we cleared the area.
When you say you were escorted off the scene, who escorted you?
Officer Grimm.